Good afternoon. I guess I'm the guy between you and the bar, and so I will try to be as brief as possible. Let's see if we can get this thing going. Obviously, produced water permitting is going to happen, and it's actually been occurring in many states for decades. It's just that it's generally been with low total dissolved solid concentration. And it's even been permitted here in Texas and within the last year or two by TCEQ, one permit in Atascosa County and one that's pending in Maverick County that will be finalized here shortly. Centralized wastewater treatments are treating produced water with advanced treatment technology. Of course, as you've heard previous speakers, starts with desal and then goes into further treatment, and it's been safely discharged to freshwater streams around the country. It's been going on in California for over 30 years, Wyoming, other places, into pure water streams. So it's not something that is totally new. All the constituents in produced water are unlikely to be present in any single set of water. It varies. You have different natural and occurring constituents that come with it. You have different constituents from one location to another, and you have additives from drilling and completion that differ from site, different by drilling producer or contractors. So what you end up needing to have for your treatment system is a commingling of the produced water into where it can all be put into a defined stream where you know what the constituents are going in, and those can have been commingled in front of the treatment process. Municipal wastewater treatment plants have far more complex wastewater, as described earlier by the earlier speaker. You don't even know what's in your drinking water. You have no idea. There's thousands of things in drinking water. And it's, some of them we have tests for, some of them we don't. So homes, apartments, you can just look here, who all is feeding a municipal wastewater treatment plant. You've got anything and everything is going in there, and they're using a biological wastewater treatment system, and that's it. That's all that's been done. To be afraid of produced water and not be concerned about your drinking water is totally backwards. Untreated domestic sewage water, all these things are in that wastewater in a municipal context. So in 2025, EPA identified 669 chemicals in domestic sewage that could be measured by analytical methods before they treat and dispose of domestic sewage into streams. But they did not include pharmaceuticals, personal care products, constituents in many cleaning agents, and pesticides or disinfectants. So the city of Dallas, or the city of Fort Worth, whose water feeds the city of Houston, none of those things are tested when they discharge their sewage there. We go through natural processes, gets to Houston, they treat it before the drinking water with known tests, but that don't identify everything that's in your drinking water. So to be concerned about produced water over and above your own drinking water is the biggest single thing here in the Permian Basin. It is highly saline. It's got a lot of salt in it, and that's not been done in any other setting in the country. We've not had this kind of produced water treated and then discharged into a stream or onto the land. And so generally, as other speakers have said, is 3 to 5 times the salinity of seawater, and it has a lot of different constituents in it. The centralized waste treatment category, EPA for a number of years has been looking at conventional and non-conventional and toxic constituents for characterizing water that goes to a centralized waste treatment. So the facilities that we will have here in Reeves County are centralized wastewater treatment facilities for oil and gas produced water. Now that is not that under the program of permitting that established these effluent limitation guidelines, and then they have what are called technology-based effluent guidelines. And industrial and effluent guidelines are developed and have been over many years with public review and input, and those will be applicable to the sources here. Excuse me. These ELGs establish minimum technology-based effluent guidelines, which are permit treatment requirements for point sources in an industrial sector. Our industrial sector is oil and gas. These technology-based effluent guidelines are based upon oftentimes best professional judgment, and there are two that are applicable to produce water. Oil and gas extraction and centralized waste treatment. Those are in the federal code of federal regulations. EPA has issued national water quality criteria used by states for stream water quality standards. So in other words, what is the water quality we have in the receiving stream? Here in this area, it is water quality standard is very high in salinity because that's the natural setting. In other words, you've got no freshwater, low level salinity in this area, so the stream water quality standards are set based on the high salinity. The designated uses for all surface water are done under these water quality standards, depends on what is the use, and then all discharges to surface water must assure that the designated uses of a receiving water are protected. Obviously, in the Pecos River, you've got a very, very high value of total dissolved solids, so that you don't have a freshwater bass fishing stream water quality standard out here. That doesn't exist. TCEQ has been for all since the 1960s. Most people don't realize that Texas had an effluent discharge permitting program almost a decade before EPA had one. And even then, it took Texans to go up there and help them write, because they didn't know how to write one in DC in the early 70s. And so the original effluent direct discharge permit program was most primarily done by Joe Moore, who had been, when I worked for the state as an engineer writing permits in 1974, he was in DC teaching them how to write permits. So the Texas TPD, Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, is the permit that is approved by the federal government to and it's issued by TCEQ with oversight by the feds. The water quality based, and that should be a Q in there in that second bullet, the water quality based effluent limitations can be added to a discharge permit when such are more stringent than the technology based effluent limits, or if there are no technology-based limits for a particular constituent. The process ensures that an approved Texas permit, these technology-based effluent limitations and water quality-based effluent limitations are protective of all designated uses. And for instance, in this situation, it'll be the Pecos River Basin. So Reeves County is the epicenter. As mentioned previously, there are 5 applications that have been pending, 2 of which draft permits for NGL Permian Water Solutions and for Texas Pacific Water Resources are presently being finalized. They will probably go public right after the first of the year 2026. Both of those, NGL has point of discharge in either Red Bluff Reservoir or Salt Creek. Texas Pacific Water Resources has a discharge into Salt Creek. There are additional permit applications. 2 of them have been filed by Aris Water Solutions, with both applications going to Red Bluff Reservoir in recent weeks, but I think about 6 weeks ago, something like that. Aris Water Solutions announced that it was being sold to Western Midstream Partners. That will probably mean that Western Midstream will be the actual permittee, because that sale is due to close before the end of the year. And then the other one is Select Energy near Salt Creek is where it's to be discharged. These permits, each of them, I think we will see will be in phases. The NGL permit will ultimately, if it will start with a phase of about 600,000 gallons per day treatment, which is a significant amount of wastewater to be treated. It will go through the multiple phases that the previous speaker talked about, the desal, and then the step by step, and then obviously extracting the ammonia, not extracting ammonia. There's decisions that will have to be made as you determine ultimately where is that water going to actually have its best use and whatnot. I don't recall exactly what Texas Pacific Water Resources, but their permit will be in phases also. So NGL is going to start with 600,000. It'll probably go to 1.5 million to 2 million in the next phase. It'll have another phase. And then ultimately will be almost 17 million gallons a day of water. That's 50 acre feet of water a day that will be the ultimate out of that one single plant. And then the others will be significant in size, but I don't think will be as large. So real question, and the previous speaker also mentioned this, what are you going to do with the water? How can you make it pay for itself in some form or another? It's awful expensive to move water. There's issues about putting really clean water into a waterway that has bad water. That doesn't really make really good sense. So there's some areas of the Pecos River that may not be suitable to put this treated water. You're immediately going to destroy its value. There may be places where even the loss to the aquifer may not be advantageous. And then, of course, what we're going to end up seeing, in my opinion, is a lot of innovative approaches for achieving widespread beneficial use. That will be something that the community will have to be involved in, will have to understand, It's going to be over and above understanding and having faith in the treatment system itself and the water itself. It's going to be, how are we going to take full advantage of having a lot of water in an area that is water short? And it's going to be, you cannot expect that water to just be put in the river and flow. It's going to be some other kinds of things, and it's going to be innovative. It's going to take everyone's understanding, and it's going to be obviously extremely important to both this community, the future of oil and gas, to get the maximum out of the Permian Basin, and the growth that can be associated with having the right kind of uses of water out here. Thank y'all very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I appreciate you bringing the rest of the things but I appreciate you bringing up the challenges, because I think it's real easy for the myth of this being a savior to the Pecos River. It's really easy to think what a great thing that would be, but it is challenging, as you said, and I just want to point out the whole idea of the water right. You know, one thing we haven't really heard clarified is, you know, all this volume of water potentially being discharged into the river. Whose water? What kind of water right is associated with that water? Because we really don't have an environmental flow standard in Texas. There's nothing really to say that that would flow down the stream. So I want to point that out. But I also want to bring up the point, we talk about widespread beneficial use and innovation. We haven't really talked about rangeland restoration today. And, you know, what using this water on the land to really restore ecosystems and restore the basin ecologically could have maybe an indirectly improve the river even more than putting directly.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, this water is going to be, in my opinion, it needs to be put to multiple uses in an appropriate way. There are aspects about it that, you know, I have no idea of all the opportunities that exist. Certainly agriculture is important, certainly range management and riparian areas of where it can be utilized. Groundwater in some instances, recharge in some may be possible. Just a host of issues that are going for, you know, it's going to be 3 to 4 years before you get to the final, maybe even more, but it's certainly at least 3 to 4 years before you have to start having the volumes of water that are going to be significant. So once these permits are proposed and out in the general public, the standards are going to be there. I mean, you know, I've represented for over 30 years, probably the worst water in the state of Texas was 67 chemical plants going to one single treatment plant and discharging into Clear Lake. And it never had any problems. So you can do this stuff. It's just expensive, real expensive. And then what are you going to do to be able to ensure that that water continues to be treated and gets utilized to the best advantage? Yes, sir.
First, I want to say I've been to a lot of conferences. It's an honor for me to sit here and listen to you talk. Thank you for coming. I don't know how they got you here, but this is one of the best 30-minute speeches I've ever listened to.
Thank you.
The second thing is, what about the difference between EPA west of the 98th meridian, east of the 98th meridian, beneficial use laws and regulations? Will those apply or be brought into this permitting process?
Well, fortunately, we're west of the 98th parallel, so you can discharge it to the streams. You know, that is an artificial, crazy congressional requirement that a senator from Wyoming came up with when they were doing that 20-something, 30-something years ago, to say that oil and gas couldn't do it east of the 98th parallel, they could do it west. So that's why the places where produced water has been treated and discharged are California, Wyoming, Colorado, and places, and now we're getting it in Texas.
So you don't think that those regulations will have any effect long-term because they are set in legislative statute?
They're in congressional statute, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So if it's not suitable to go down the Pecos River, why can't it go on the Red Bluff Reservoir? Because that's where it's going.
Well, some of it may go into Red Bluff. The issue with Red Bluff is obviously it's fairly, in recent years, has had a high total dissolved solids content that's much higher than the treated water. That's parameters. I mean, I don't know, Robin can tell you what the TDS is in there, but it's not 3,000 TDS, and this produced water is gonna be 3,000 or less on a daily basis. So there's an issue there. I mean, wish we still got water from New Mexico, or rainwater. TDS, you know, I'm not that involved in, I just know that the produced water parameters that TCEQ is talking about is gonna be 3,000 TDS or less. And that's gonna be up to the operator as to how they comply with that. And then that water will leave their premises in some way for use. Any other questions? I'll be around at the bar if you want to talk.